Hello everyone, welcome to Dr. Rajkumar Academy. Welcome to the session on 2nd 9 2022 newspaper analysis guys. So because of the festival and yesterday as newspaper was not available, we had to discontinue. Else regularly we are doing this and we will continue to do so guys. But as repeatedly I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to be slow to ensure people from Kannada medium also try to understand. And most importantly, my request to you all is people who are from Kannada medium background as well, try to read newspaper at least in English so that your understanding would be easier, especially of CSAT and other aspects. So now let's quickly get into the issues. Today's notes is very less, guys. So whatever I dictate, that must be good enough. Some students are asking me, sir, should we write more or is that enough? To reduce your burden itself, I'm dictating. So that must be more than enough. Don't worry much about the notes. Guys, Murugu Mutt Seer arrested. If you are looking at KPSC and other exams, these would be important. Else, no. GST revenue crossed the 1.4 lakh crore mark again. Because it is believed that from the last 6 months continuously, India's GST is crossing 1.4 lakh crore. 1 month or 2 months if you have, it is an indication that it was some adjustment. But if you are doing it consistently, which means Indian economy is performing better. And what is the reason for this? It is believed that Indian manufacturers reported the fastest increase in production and new orders in the 9 months. The meaning of this is compared to last year, this year, if we check, the orders are increasing regularly, guys, and that has made our GST revenue also increase. And why orders are increasing? One is local demand, second one is global demand. So guys, this is every month scenario. So no need to worry about it or no need to read about it. But in your economy notes, I want you to study what is the meaning of purchasing managers index. So guys, let me tell you how these magazines and all will work. Any magazine, if you take, what they normally do, they will try to take in that particular month whatever has happened, and they will try to link it with the general studies that is there, and they will ask you to go through that completely. So I don't want you to copy paste whatever is there in your class notes already, but my suggestion to you is please ensure that you are trying to read all those associated points. In your economy current affairs, you write purchasing managers index and try to study it from your economy book, guys. That is more than enough. Next, you have Tista custody. Supreme Court questions Gujarat, not required. Metro works come to a halt on ORR, not required. UPA delegation, not required. IMF to extend $2.9 billion to Sri Lanka. Very, very important, guys. Anything in Sri Lanka, let us say any of the surrounding countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, right? Myanmar, it becomes important to you. Especially Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan will be very, very important for you. You're all aware about what happened in Sri Lanka. You're aware about the economic crisis in Sri Lanka. IMF is giving a bailout of $2.9 billion, guys. This will help Sri Lanka to come out of the problem to some extent. One of the major problem for Sri Lanka is it doesn't have dollars in its account. If it doesn't have dollars, the problem is it cannot purchase oil or natural gas. Without natural gas, they cannot have electricity. If they cannot have electricity, then there is no possibility of, industries and all running. Now, when electricity was not there, when people were struggling, there were a lot of issues in Sri Lanka, and this we observed recently. Academia research and the glass ceiling in India not required, guys. Don't worry about this. Fine, you can leave it. The big picture takeaways from China's Taiwan drill not required, because this is also written by a professor, guys. From social issues point of view, a revert to the mean. Increase in violent crimes, suicides in 2021. Yes, recently when this issue came, right, I told you that not to worry about the content, because in that particular content, details were very less. But now, in this particular article, guys, I want you to, write this complete information once. At least the first paragraph here, I want you to complete it, guys. Write down completely. They are trying to give us what are all the problems that existed and the crimes that existed. Pause for 10 minutes, write this down. It will be helpful for social justice class. And also, if you're writing about essays and all, this factual data will be really helpful, guys. So, work on it properly. Now, guys, here is a question which can come directly in paper 2, or it can be asked in ethics as well. Now, what has happened? Gujarat government recently released criminals or people who were convicted in Bilkis Bano case. Now, what happened is in 2002 riots, a Muslim family was burned to death in front of the family itself. The baby was burned, killed, and this case went to court, and the court gave judgment and put those criminals behind bars. Unfortunately, recently Gujarat government released those 11 men convicted. Now, when this happened, Smita Sabharwal from Telangana, who is a very very good administrator, who is known for her, commitment, like Rohini Sinduri in Karnataka. Now she tweeted that as a woman and a civil servant, I sit in disbelief on reading the news on the Bilkis Bano case. We cannot snuff out her right to breathe free without fear again and call ourselves a free nation. She has told that releasing those convicted men are absolutely wrong. This should not have happened at any cost. And this is against the constitution as well. So now the question is, as a civil servant, as a bureaucrat, when a state does something wrong, is it correct to comment about it in a negative manner? For these two people, one BN Sri Krishna, retired justice of the Supreme Court, and guys, BN Sri Krishna's committee is there in multiple areas, and he is a gem in civil, judiciary, and whatever judgments and all he passes, people have huge respect to it. And second one is K. Sujata Rao, retired IAS officer, who is also talking about this issue. So, guys, what is the question? The question is, can a civil servant comment if government does something wrong, is what the question actually is. DN Sri Krishna clearly says that there is no code, there is no law to tell a bureaucrat not to restrict. They can give their opinion. She has the right to talk about it. And he gives two court judgments as example to say that IAS officers are free to tell what it actually means. Right? And guys, dissent is very, very important. If at all we are not telling no, if at all we are accepting whatever government does, it's wrong. Whichever government it may be. Hitler asked his bureaucrats and policemen to kill Jews, and those people were scared to open their mouth against it, which led to killing of so many Jews. So if a state is ordering you to kill people, you should stand against it. If something is wrong, you should stand up for it. And Sujata Rao, she clearly says that yes, it is correct, and as a civil servant, she has a right to say so because that will ensure that civil servant is not working for the government and she is working for the constitution. And it will also ensure that the bureaucratic power is not misused. Here you see, in this case, both the spirit of the constitution and the rule of law were being subverted. By whom? By the government. So this could be a very dangerous precedent, as Andhra Pradesh government released 8 murder convicts despite them not completing the mandatory 14 years in jail. If murderers are going to be released by executive action, what is the point of having courts? Wind up all the courts and let the government of the day decides who must be in the jail and who must not be. See guys, I support BJP, I support Congress, I support Aam Aadmi Party, I support whichever political parties exists in the country. That doesn't matter. What matters is country matters, constitution matters, and any action taken by anyone at any point of time must be criticized and you must question it. Now, in the second question, she is asking about Rule 9 of the Central Civil Services Conduct. No government servant shall make any statement of fact or opinion which has the effect of an adverse criticism of any current or recent policy or action of the central government. Isn't this in violation of Article 19 of the Constitution? Now, guys, it clearly says that, if they try to go against the government, is it violating? For this, BN Sri Krishna from judiciary point of view says, yes, it is violating, so it may be removed by Supreme Court at some point of time. But Sujata Rao as an IAS officer says that, see, no, anything which is formed by the government will be framed. Let us say a policy is there, any policy is there. That policy is actually made by the bureaucrats, and the bureaucrats will write what are the merits, demerits, and problems associated with that particular issue, and then the bureaucrat will send it to the executive and executive will pass it. So once a proper procedure is followed, it is mandatory for the bureaucrat to follow it because some things are done after proper ground checking. So some discipline is important. See guys, this is the difference between an IAS officer, judge and others. When an IAS officer talks, when a professor talks, let's say the same article is written by a professor. The professor would have criticized this article completely. Whereas, as she is an IAS officer, she is extremely cautious about what she is actually telling, and she is trying to tell how the functionality will be. So, just because in this particular case, you need to support Smita Sabharwal, she is not telling that bureaucrats can speak. She is telling that no, discipline is important. Second thing is Twitter a proper platform for her to tell, or should he or she had to inform it behind? For this, Sri Krishna says, whether it is the Hindu, like tweet on Facebook, everything is one and the same. You need not be scared, you can talk. Whereas Sujata Rao argues that it is very important that you cannot speak about this issue behind the doors, because Smita Sabharwal is not party to the entire issue. What is the meaning of this? When the convicts were sent out, it was Gujarat government and Gujarat bureaucrats. Smita Sabharwal does not have any role to play in Gujarat government's functionality. So it is not correct for her to express behind the doors, and there is no scope. I want you to read this article once, cut this article, and read again after your ethics classes are done, guys. Fine. This is very, very important for me to read. Now, after this, Modi Xi Wei meeting as chill remains entice. See, guys, Modi and Xi Jinping are going to meet under Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Uzbekistan, G20 meet in Indonesia. Now, when they both are going to meet, will there be an issue? Is what they are planning to talk. Meanwhile, German diplomat has told that Beijing cannot claim Arunachal Pradesh, and it is wrong. So Germany is supporting India that Arunachal Pradesh belongs to us. This is what this article is trying to talk this. Nothing much. So you can leave it. 5-year-old dies not required. Supreme Court seeks info on attacks on Christians not required. Bangladesh Prime Minister to visit India next week. MEA. I would ask you to read this once she comes. But what is there? You see, she will be coming, and she will award Mujib scholarships to 200 Indian Armed Forces personnel who were martyred or suffered critical injuries during the liberation war of 1971. As you are all aware, India helped Bangladesh to get independence, and under Mujib scholarships, they are supporting the families who were affected. And second important thing is, yes, there is Ganges Water Treaty which happened in 1996, and the treaty is for 30 years. So the treaty is going to end in 2026. Now Sheikh Hasina is planning to come to India, and she is planning to renew the treaty. That's what they are trying to talk is. Fine. Once she comes, I will dictate notes on these issues. Yes, Vostok 2022. This is a military exercise between India, China and Russia. See guys, India, China and Russia are actually having a military exercise, Vostok. And remember, this is happening at a time when Russia is waging war in Ukraine. And this also sends a signal to the rest of the world that India is a very good friend of Russia and India is not bothered about any consequences. US has told India participating in this is not correct, but India is telling that India and Russia has many such joint military exercise. Remember guys, earlier India was not going closer to US nor India was going closer to Russia. But today India is a good friend of both US and Russia, indicating that India today follows multi alignment policy rather than following non alignment policy. So, this is very, very important. In your notes, I want you to write Vostok 2022. Vostok 2022 is military exercise, military exercise between India, China, and Russia. Next, guys, 7 states called to center's crime portal. See, guys, in internal security, I want you to make a note. Crime Act, Crime Multi Agency Center. Fine. Crime Act, Crime Multi Agency Center 2022. Sorry, 2020. Launched by Ministry of Home Affairs. Fine. Okay, what is the use of this? Here is a portal in which every person has to, or every state government has to put details of all the criminals in this particular area. Once if you put photos or details of all the criminals, and if any criminal is moving from one country to another country, it is easy for us to catch. And guys, let me tell you, India is telling the world community that everyone must come together and catch few international criminals. But unfortunately, India itself is not in a position to come together where, like, all the state governments must support each other in identifying and capturing the criminals. This is what we just need to understand from this particular aspect, guys. But I just want you to have Crime Act, Crime Multi Agency Center launched in 2020 by Ministry of Home Affairs to share information on crime and criminals 24 into 7, crime and criminals 24 into 7 with various law enforcement agencies, Yes, transparency debates continues in Congress, not required. Don't take back farmers money from farmers. Congress. National level quiz for school students, not required. Shah to visit Seemanchal in Bihar, not required. Court denies bail to former Bihar minister, not required. UGC proposes clustering of colleges. Says proposals, don't try to read. Once it becomes important, you read. Expert panel gives green clearance for PMO project. This is very, very important, guys. The government's executive enclave project. I want you to write this in economy infrastructure. The government's executive enclave project, which includes construction of new prime minister's office, on Thursday, received environmental clearance from the State Environment Impact Assessment Authority, Delhi. Yes, government is planning for an enclave project right, for reconstruction of prime minister's office, and that required what we call as environment ministries nod, and central government has got only this guys. India made HPV vaccine this year. One shot will be priced at 200 to 400. See guys, HPV, human papilloma virus, right? And this can be asked in the exam. So you can write about HPV, human papilloma virus. And guys, this is effective against cancer causing viruses, guys. And the name of this is Servavac. You can write in science and technology Servavac, Servavac against four variants of cancer causing human papilloma virus. Fine. Yeah. So guys, after this, nothing else is important here. UN accuses China of Uyghur rights abuses. See guys, this is a very important issue. I'll just tell you what it is. In China, on the western side, in Xinjiang province, there are Muslim communities called as Uyghurs, and it is believed that China is killing these ethnic communities. Many countries have criticized China for this, whereas China says it is done by some Western countries and it is some cooked up information and it is not true. Fine. Second, guys, no state funeral for Mikhail Gorbachev. See, guys, he was the last president of Soviet Union, and it is believed that he actually introduced a reform called as perestroika. See, guys, this must be there. I'll tell you the name. World history. World history. Mikhail Gorbachev. Mikhail Gorbachev. Perestroika. Perestroika led to collapse of Soviet Union. So this is very important for you guys. Question can be asked on world history. See guys, so in this there is no much issues, but US's AI chip export ban may hit China tech units. See guys, most of the artificial intelligence training modules are coming from US to China, and those advanced memory chips are extremely essential for Chinese electronic industry, and US has put a ban on exporting those, right? So US and China war will be going on. If it was India, it would have been very important, guys. After all this, guys, in environment and ecology, I just want you to read this, guys. Affecting the ban on single use plastics. Fine. So the first thing that you must be aware is the purpose of single use plastics is to use them once or for a short period of time before disposing of them. That means once or twice you can use and you can throw it. Plastic waste has drastic impacts on the environment. There is a greater likelihood of a single use plastic products ending up in the sea than reusable ones. See, you might have seen few people who go and keep on picking up the covers and all. So what happens is, if at all you have such covers with you, single use, if it is torn or so, we will throw it, and it is of no use, so it will enter into the sea and it will not decompose as well. But fortunately, just remember, fortunately, if at all you are using, like, some bags again and again, so those things people are not interested to throw, they will collect and recycle. As recycling doesn't happen in single use plastics, it is very very important for us to reduce its usage, right? And India has taken measures against it. Littered single use plastic items have an adverse effect on both terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem. Guys, India was the first one to tell in United Nation Environment Assembly 2019 that we should ban use of single use plastic, right? So read this entire article once. This was old issue, but still it is important. Fine. So nothing much to write. I just want you to read it once. So I guess single use plastic needs to be banned is what this particular article is trying to tell. And then they want to ensure that we should prohibit the manufacture, import, stocking, distribution, sale, and use of plastic carry bags whose thickness is less than 75 microns. It's very, very important for us to ensure that the thickness is more, is what this entire article is trying to tell us. Guys. Fine. So, this much is enough, guys. Rest we'll see tomorrow. Guys, we are starting our new batch. So those who are interested, they can contact us for both KPSC and UPSC. Please inform your friends as well. Thank you guys. Thanks a lot for your patience.